Hi, my name is Nicole Evans, and I am a Caucasian woman sitting down in her studio in a gray background. Howard?
Nicole, I'm Howard, Renensland. I'm sitting in my studio home office. I happen to be a Caucasian man around 70 years of age, wearing a tan sweater and a check shirt with some photographs of people I admire in the background.
Awesome. You look super cozy in your office, Howard.
I am nice and warm.
So, Howard, can you tell me what exactly is with media?
I can, I think, I hope. With Media is a media company of, by, and for people with disabilities and everybody else. We are committed to a workforce where at least 28 of all the people we employ, at least 28%, are a person with a disability in front of the camera and behind the camera, in all departments and at all levels of management and control of the company.
That's excellent. I just love that because it's so inclusive in front of the camera and behind the camera. You know, no stories about us without us, right?
Most of the jobs are behind the camera. You know that as well as I do. We may be out front earning all the gravy, but the people backstage are the people that are making it happen and don't get any credit ever, really.
Mhm. Now, where did you get the idea for With Media?
Well, I have a daughter with disabilities. Victoria is her name. Victoria is the reason I'm doing all of this. I remember, Nicole, you can relate to this. I was sitting on a set one day for a commercial and a lot of time to wait around, and I was waiting around, and all of a sudden I looked around and I saw, I don't know, 60, 70 people working. I mean, there were all the people on the crew. There are the people from the advertising agency because it was a commercial. There were people from the client. That day it was Hostess Cupcakes. There were a bunch of people from Hostess there. There was the actress playing my wife, and then there were 3 child actors playing our kids. And I realized of all those people there that day, nobody had a disability, at least a physical disability visible that I could see. Now, I'm an actor, you're an actor. I've done hundreds of commercials. I've done movies. I've done all the soap operas when they were around. I've done pilots. I've done theater, off Broadway. But in all my jobs, and there have to be thousands of them, I realized I never once worked with a person with a disability, a physical disability that I could see. Well, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm an actor. I've always been an actor. I know my industry. People with disabilities, they can do all of these jobs. They can do my job. I learned, I realized they just don't get a chance. They don't get an opportunity. That's it.
And it's so true because 20% of the population is someone with a disability. Of course, like you said, not necessarily a visible disability, but it's very much a part of our society.
Well, you know, Nicole, I actually think that over 25% of the population have a disability. A lot of people don't report they have a disability because they're
Sure.
worried. It's like coming out of the closet. You're worried about how that's going to impact on you. Plus, they just don't want to be looked upon as disabled, quote, close quote. And they're underreported. So I believe strongly that at least 25% of the population have a disability. That's in the US, and I imagine it's true around the world. You know, there are 600 million people with a disability, at least around the world.
What's incredible about the people with disabilities are that minority group is the most inclusive minority group on the planet. I mean, anyone could become disabled at any time.
You can always join our minority group. You're welcome to join.
Yeah,
That's right.
everyone's welcome.
We go across all thresholds: economic, racial, religious, sexual orientation, age, left, right, middle, whatever. There are people with
Exactly.
disabilities in every tent.
What kind of shows will we see on With Media?
Ah, well, I promise you, you're going to see entertaining, compelling news, weather, sports, drama, comedy, documentary. Some of the content will be archival, some of it will be original, just like every other startup channel. But I guarantee you, everything you see, all our commercials that we produce and that we show, all of the shows, they're all going to be captioned for the deaf. They're all going to be described for the blind. And everything we do, everything you see and hear is going to be created by our workforce, where at least 28% of us are a person with a disability. You're going to have a very good time watching our channel, I promise you.
So tell me, where are you now with the project?
Well, Nicole, you've known me a while. I've been trying to do this for a long time. I had the idea a long time ago. Things got in the way. My daughter Victoria, who I mentioned, she was critically ill for 10 years. She had somewhat over 16 major GI operations. That's all over with now. She's fine and dandy. But for those 9, 10, 11 years when she was in the hospital and rehabbing, I couldn't do anything except take care of her. And then, of course, there have been 5 ventures before ours, which weren't video companies. They were all web portals. They were trying to be a web portal for people with disabilities. I never thought that would work. It didn't work. All 5 of those ventures went in the tank, but that really hurt me when I was talking to people at the Disney or people at Comcast. They said, well, these guys have failed. Why won't you fail? And I kept saying, well, none of them did video. They were all print. They were all writing stories. Nobody was broadcasting. So I think that's the key. I think that's an important part of what we're trying to do.
So why media, film, and television?
That's a good question. Well, it's the industry that I know first and foremost. When I sit around, or when I sat around trying to think of what could Victoria do for a job when she got out of high school, or she got to go to college, what could she do? And I thought about her and what she liked to do. And I obviously thought about my own business. And, I don't own a shoe store or a bookstore. Sometimes I wish I did. I spend a lot of money on books, but I'm not in retail. I don't own a business. I'm an actor. I've always been an actor. So I started thinking about my industry, and I realized of all the people employed in film and television, less than 5% are people with a disability. Well, that's criminal to me. That's obscene. Doesn't make any sense. So I saw there was a real strong need to put people to work and to put them to work in my industry, because I thought it could change things. That's the reason. How could it change things? Well, number one, people telling the stories, people having the control, are going to be people like you and my friends like Rick Boggs and Teal Scherer and everybody else. They're going to be people with disabilities writing the stories, developing the stories. The stories are going to be accurate. They're going to be full and complete and rich. They're not going to be stereotypical, super cripple, super pity. You won't be cast in a show because you have a disability. You'll be cast because you're a good actress and there's a good part that you can really get your hands on and sink your teeth into. So by doing that, we get rid of all those, well, we begin to at least get rid of all those negative stereotypes that limit people and that limit society from understanding who people with disabilities are, what they have to give. So we can change society for the better. The other thing is, and this is important because it speaks to our viability, business wants to advertise to you and to me and Victoria. They want what's called the disability market. People with disabilities spend a lot of money, and they'd like to get some of that money, but they don't know how to advertise to us. They don't know where we are. Back in 2004, they complained to Booz Allen Hamilton, a big PR firm. There's no platform. We wish there was a platform for people with disabilities. Then we would know where they are and we could target our advertising to them. Well, we're going to give them the platform, and we're going to give the content to people with disabilities, but not just people with disabilities, because I would dare say most of the people that watch films like Ray, Radio, Sam I Am, Born on the 4th of July, Coming Home, $1 Million Baby, all those really good, successful stories that have a disability theme, like some of our shows will, most of the people that watch them aren't people with disabilities. They're people without a disability. People without disabilities like watching our stories. Why? They're full of drama, they're full of tragedy, but they're also full of comedy and humor and spirit and energy. The problem is that you and other people with disabilities aren't really part of the money chain. You know, everybody else is doing your story and making money off of it. We're changing that. 28% of our workforce are going to be people with a disability. And when you support us, when you advertise with us, your dollar goes right into the pocket of a person with a disability. We're not for profit. We're not for profit. Whatever money we bring in pays our bills and lets us hire more people with disabilities, lets us train more people with disabilities so they can leave with media and go off to Hulu or go off to CBS, and we can hire more people and train more people. So that's where I got this idea of mine to do it in media.
Amazing. I'm very excited about With Media. I think it's going to be a tremendous launching pad for representation of people with disabilities.
Sure
And
hope so. I'm tickled pink you're involved, because you're you know, you carry weight in the industry, and I don't mean weight personally. I mean you carry power, and that means something to me, because you walk the walk that I'm talking. You know,
I
you
think
live
I roll, but
yeah, you roll, yeah.
but you say 28% of the workforce of With Media will be people with disabilities. How did you come up with that number?
That's a good question, and people have asked me before, and you know, I kind of just picked the number out because this is, you know, I've been involved in disability advocacy as a parent ever since Victoria was born, or at least shortly thereafter. I mean, we knew in the delivery room Victoria was going to have a different kind of life. We knew right away. So I started becoming involved, obviously, in my daughter's future. And through the years, you know, literally through over 30 years, people with disabilities are most talked about in terms of statistics. And you'll see a range. Nobody knows for sure, and that's okay. But you'll see anywhere from 18% to 33%. Now, I don't think any of those numbers are right. More often than not, people sort of settle into 25%.
Mhm.
If you look at the data put out by advertising agencies and research companies, they say things like 1 out of 4 homes has a person with a disability in it. Now, I remember when they said 1 out of 5 homes, that was 30 years ago. They would say 1 out of 5 homes has a person with a disability. At the same time, 30 years ago, they would say 1 out of 4 homes has a person in it connected to disabilities. Either a family member has it, or they work in the field of medicine, they work in the field of disability advocacy or something like that. So, you know, numbers are numbers. And frankly, I hope it's way more than 28%. Every time we go out looking for a job, my goal as CEO is to find a person with a disability who can do that job. We will interview everybody that comes down the pike, but we'll make sure that, look, if you have a disability and you think you can be head of HR, or you think you can be head of marketing, or you want to write, or you want to direct, or you want to act, we want to talk to you. We want to audition you. We want to interview you. So I just picked 28% really because who cares? I mean, when you look at the number, the real number that's important to me is less than 5%. Now, you know, some of my friends are extremely militant in terms of their disability advocacy, but I understand militancy these days. If you're, you know, if you're a group trying to get equality, boy, I understand it. You know, how many years ago did we see Geraldo Rivera's report on Willowbrook? You know, I think it's important. 5% is the one that bothers me as opposed to 28%, but it's a very good question. It's just a number I picked, and you can see I'm long-winded.
What do you see as the future of With Media? What do you see the 10 years from now?
Well, 10 years from now, I would love us to be just like Hulu, Tubia, Netflix, ESPN. I want us to be the landing place for people with disabilities who want to see important, vital news, weather, sports information. If there's a hurricane coming off the coast of New York and you're in a wheelchair, or you're on dialysis, or you need insulin to be kept in the refrigerator and you're going to lose your electricity, I want you to know how to prepare for that. If the fires are burning outside your house in Northern California, and you have a son with Down syndrome and you can't drive and he's frightened or she's frightened, I want you to know how to deal with that. I also want you to be able to see yourself. It was no problem for me as a 6-year-old chubby little boy in Leavenworth, Kansas, knowing I could be an actor. The TV was full of people like me, but it's not full of people like Victoria. It's not full of little girls in wheelchairs or little boys who are missing their arms and their legs, who are every bit as competent as you and I are, if not more competent in many ways. So I want us to be that. Now, you know, our business model is pretty much like everybody else's business model. We're really just a niche channel. We will start with the way everybody else does. If we get some funding, we have a 5-year budget, we have a 5-year business plan. We will be successful after those 5 years. We will never need any more philanthropic money. We will be able to survive on our own income streams, of which we'll have about 5. But we will start with archival content. We will find every show that has disability theme, and we will try and buy the rights to it, and we will stream it around the world. We'll caption it, we'll describe it, like Ironsides from 40 years ago is a good old show. Life Goes On, a more recent one, or the ones that are on now. We will buy the ones we can afford, we will put them on streaming media, and we will send it around the world with captions and descriptions. And we will start with our own shows. First, we'll start with a news magazine formatted show where this interview will be seen, and that's called The Disability Perspective. And The Disability Perspective is just a news magazine formatted show. You'll see news, weather, and sports of the day from a global perspective, and you'll see interviews and stories. Initially, we're focusing on disability in the media because that's what we're all about. We're all about disability and we're about the media. But after that, we'll begin to cover stories like Black Lives Matter, for example. Well, what does that have to do with disabilities? Well, there are a lot of people who are Black who have a disability. As a matter of fact, half of all the people killed by the police, not that they're killing everybody, but half of the people that are killed by the police are a person with a disability. Nobody knows that. But if you have a child who has Down syndrome or who is autistic or who can't talk and looks like he's inebriated when he's actually trying to communicate, you need to know that. Police officers need to know that. So there's important stuff that has to get out. We'll talk about that.
Well, this all sounds excellent, Howard. I'm so excited about With Media, and this is definitely a launching pad towards inclusion.
You're great. And I'm tickled pink that you're interviewing me. I'm tickled pink that, you know, I admire you as an actress. I admire you as a working actress. I admire you as a woman looking for work as an actress. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I know what you have to go through. So I admire your talent, and you're going to be helpful because just like I'm suckering everybody I know into this thing, you're going to talk some of your very talented friends with and without disabilities into being involved too. And together, you know, we'll start a movement like Arlo Guthrie and his song. It's not just the two of us, pretty much it's a battalion of us.
Awesome. Well, let's do it. Let's get started. We have a lot of work to do.
I do. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's start creating content.
Let's do it. Well, Howard, thank you so much for talking with me. I'm so excited about With Media, and let's get started.
Thank you for interviewing me. I'm tickled you're involved with us. And I think you and I need to start writing some of these shows, Nicole, particularly creating roles for you.
Oh, let's do it. Hey, I like that.
Take care.
You too.